This is the fourth introduction to the fourth clip of the interview I did with Reb Zalman in 2010, Zalman Schechter. So on this clip, Zalman talks a lot about his days in 770 in the 1940s and the different Hasidim he met and the different friends he has. He speaks about Peretz Hecht, a Popak. He talks about Shalom Gordon, Shalom Ber Gordon. And he has a nice word to say about everyone, which is a very beautiful thing that, he finds good in people. He then talks about the Mashpiyim, Rabbi Jacobson, Rabbi Shmuel Witten, and an individual called Rabbi Romelia Axelrad, who wasn't a Mashpiyah, he was actually a Rav in the Tzemach Tzedek Shul in Baltimore from 1925 to 1952 when he passed away. And I wrote about him. And this Rabbi Axelrad, I believe, even amongst all of his friends, Rabbi Kazanovsky, Rabbi Simpson, Rabbi Jacobson, Rabbi Shmuel, and others, he stood out. He was, the lion Sheba Chabura in the group, in his Yiras Shamayim and his kindness and other areas. And I always had that feeling, and when I heard this from Zalman, it substantiated it. Zalman says that if he were to speak to one individual about the things that are bothering you inside, it would be him. And he wasn't a mashpia. He would come, I think, once or twice a year from Baltimore, Simchas Torah, I believe he came to be with the Frierdiker Rebbe, and maybe another time. And he made a farbrengen. He had a farbrengen, and the Bochram snuck away from the Seder, so Zalman says, to be at his farbrengen. But I find that a very, very interesting remark that Zalman makes on the clip, that if he would have an opportunity, he would speak to him, and not to Rabbi Jacobson, and not to Rabbi Shmuel, and not to the others. Why not? So he says, what he says is because Rabbi Jacobson would criticize him, him. Shmuel was totally in a different world and had no idea of who he is, really. That's what he says. And Rabbi Axelrad, even though he wasn't in the yeshiva and he came so seldom, nevertheless, his persona was one that Zalman relates to. And this is also important to think about when we want to look at the whole person. Another person Zalman says he related to was Rabbi Menachem Zev Wolf Greenglass, Rabbi Greenglass. This is also interesting. So he says, why Rabbi Greenglass? He was a davener. So Zalman says he related to the daveners. Now there is truth to that. However, I think it's much deeper. It's not just that he's a davener. Rabbi Greenglass was a certain, besides his knowledge in Kabbalah and Chassidus and everything else, he was a certain softness, kindness. He didn't, point the finger. Zalman says on the clip, why wasn't he accepted really, by the Chevra? Because he's a Galicianer, he says. He was an outsider, a Galicianer. Now, he wasn't the only Galicianer. There were other Galicianers, okay? There were other Polacks. There were other Polish. I'm saying people from different backgrounds. I'm not talking about, people who came for a while and left. I'm talking about people who were, steadfast students in the yeshiva. The point is, the story that he tells over there, that he bought a sirtuk, he says, a Bekish, a sirtuk, while he was a bacher. So you imagine a 42, 43, 44, and he says his friends gave it to him.